Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I really hate to break up all this wonderful networking. I know I said that the last time I was up at the podium too. But really, this is why we do this, right? So you all can come together and share great ideas and talk about all the great things you're doing in this wonderful community. And breaking that up kind of breaks my heart. But we have a program, and we got to stick to the program. So with that, I want to thank everyone and welcome you to coming to the second quarterly update. So before we get into the program, I have a few housekeeping items. Of course, if you have your cell phone, I'm not going to tell you to turn your cell phone off, but what I will tell you to do is please put it on vibrate, because I get distracted. I hear your cell phone and then I jump off track. So if you can put it on vibrate, that would be fantastic. Also, restrooms, they're going to be to your left, side door here, through these double back doors. And so, and then also if you work your way out of those back doors as well, you can go out into the terminal and we have restroom facilities for you to use as well. Today's event is being live streamed on YouTube, and it's also being live captioned. So in order to view the live captioning, please go to floridabusiness.org in the Media Center and look for closed captioning. So with that, if you all can please rise and join me for a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first I'd like to recognize all of the elected officials in the room. So with that, Ernie Andino with Congressman Michael Waltz's office. You just please stand. Yep. Charlene Garnier from Senator Tom Wright's office. Representative Webster Barnaby from the Florida House. Your Honor, Judge Raul Zambrano from the 7th Judicial Circuit. Matt Reinhardt from Volusia County Council. Danny Robbins, the Volusia County Vice Chair. Will Roberts, Volusia County Tax Collector. I didn't tell him to do that, Will. My good neighbor, Nancy Miller, Daytona Beach Shores Mayor. Debbie Dalbo, Edgewater Council Member. Lisa Stafford, Orange City Council Member. Bill Partington, Ormond Beach Mayor. Lois Paritsky, Ponce Inlet Mayor. And then from Port Orange, Don Burnett. Thank you so much for being here. I also want to thank our sponsor, my good friend, Dr. Ken Sharples in the CEO Business Alliance. So those of you that don't know, the CEO Business Alliance is a 501c6 non-for-profit organization with the sole mission to stimulate new job creation and capital investment in Volusia County. The Alliance works to recruit new businesses to the area, assist business growth and retention, and support initiatives to enhance economic development efforts. So, Kent, thank you so much for being here and supporting this effort. We really, truly appreciate you. All right, so our first speaker is going to be Kevin Kyle. He's the CEO of Germ Free and the chairman of Florida Fame Sunshine Chapter Board. So for those of you who haven't heard of Fame, we're going to play a quick video and then have Kevin come up to elaborate on his business-led workforce development program. Oops.
So the FAME program is basically fresh out of high school or a few years after high school, you go into this program where you go to school and work at the same time, half and half each week. And basically you get experience for the 2 years that you're in the program or 4 years, and you also get your associates or bachelor's depending on what type of program you're in. I think the FAME program is very important. You get experience at the same time as going to school, so you're not fresh out of college with no work experience. You got 2 years experience under your belt, which is going to make you a much higher prospect to employers all over the world. At Germ Free, I'm a quality technician. I do anything from working on Kaizen events to inspections. I do random tests on these trailers and modules. It's a very different work environment here because it's not standard work every time. We're doing custom projects here, so it's a lot of varied experience that I'm getting here, learning all types of different things. I think Germ Free is a wonderful company. It's very progressive and I love everything about it. There's tons of talented people that I'm working with and very intelligent people that I can ask questions all the time, and I'm learning everything from the beginning processes to the end processes, and it's giving me great experience to further my career in the future.
So please join me in welcoming Kevin Kyle.
Hey, good morning all. I want to thank you for having me here. I promised Robin that I'm going to be very fast. And I want to start by saying thanks to Brad Harris, because I'm standing here right now because I reached out for help last week in our board meeting. Brad, thanks for getting me on the list here today. So I'm going to take about 5 minutes. Wanted to first introduce myself, and then I'm going to come back to the significance of that young man in the video who, by the way, went through the program, graduated, and now I'm very, very proud to have him as a full-time employee at Germ Free. So the program fulfilled its mission with that young man, but I'll come back to him in just a minute. So my name's Kevin Kyle. I grew up in Titusville, Florida, a bit south of here. Most of you know it, watching rockets launch. Went into engineering because I really like technology, high-tech stuff. Somehow went full circle, like literally full circle around the world in my career. Came back and landed at home where I've got a 15-and-a-half-year-old daughter who's just the love of my life, an apple of my eye. And my wife who's put up with me for 25 years, we wanted to raise her, and raised her here in New Smyrna Beach. So been kind of local, but been in Volusia County for a long time. A little bit about Germ Free. Germ Free is a company that's been around for 60 years. I know a lot of you have been to the building. I'd like to invite any and all of you. We do tours all the time. We do some very, very unique work. We do clean room stuff, so we're working with some of the leading edge institutions on the planet right now, developing what you can read about every day in the Wall Street Journal or other magazines, cell and gene therapies. You're hearing about advanced therapies coming forward, CAR T therapies, where they're actually curing cancer. We're providing equipment and clean rooms for those guys. On the flip side of the coin, and I literally mean the flip side of the pressure scheme, when you talk about air pressure in a room, we do biocontainment. So we house everything from moon rocks to Ebola to SARS, and we help public health agencies globally to contain that kind of stuff. Really cool company. We've grown from 80 people to a little bit over 200 right now. We're in 180,000 square feet in the great city of Ormond Beach. Thank you, Mayor Partington, for having us there. It's awesome to be in Ormond Beach. Love Volusia County, but really love Ormond Beach. And so little bit. So I wanted to introduce myself and introduce you. Introduce myself and introduce Germ-Free, but more importantly, I want to talk to you today about FAME, and I want to do an introduction, and it's also an ask for help. I need your help. FAME, the Federation for Advanced Manufacturing Education, is a program that was started about 25 years ago by Toyota when they were moving manufacturing from Japan to Kentucky. And they knew that due to the high quality of cars that they make, and I've owned a bunch of them, that they needed to have a certain level of workforce. And so they built out this program to develop that workforce. So the program's been around for a long time. It was in Kentucky and it kind of spread out from there, and we've started a chapter 3 years ago. And what it's essentially doing is taking on the kind of vaunted German internship programs. And very, very importantly, and I expect everybody to nod their heads, it starts with safety, but then it moves on to professional behaviors. And these are and when I say safety, this is drilled at the start of every class. When we talk about professional behaviors, there's an expectation that you show up with a pressed shirt and a belt, and that your clothes are orderly, and that you know how to speak with people. Coming back to the young man in the video, Tanner, when I met him and we asked them to do an initial presentation, and let me do my best impression of the presentation. It was kind of like, yeah, my name's Tanner, and yeah, I grew up in Deltona. And now I can stand him up in front of 200 people at my company with 2 minutes notice. I've done it because I just wanted to see how he'd react. And he can speak and he can tell you about things. So the professional behaviors matter a lot, and I think you all know that. I mean, most of us in here have a couple of gray hairs, and that's been really good. But here's the other thing, and this is the analogy I like to use with just how history has changed us. So when I was a kid, I was born in 1970. When I was a kid, I'm sorry, but cars were just junk, okay? Every 5,000 miles, you needed to change points in condenser, you needed to change the rotor, probably the spark plug wires, had to do an oil change. Now you can buy a Toyota, and if you change the oil every 5 to 10,000 miles, you can probably drive it for about 200,000 miles without ever opening the hood, right? I mean, and this is great, by the way, I love that. But there's less people that grow up under a car, less people that grow up under the hood of a car, less people that know how things work. So what FAME's doing is taking these professional behaviors, taking the safety orientation, and taking the most modern lean manufacturing technologies, and it's teaching people how hydraulics work, how analog systems work, how high voltage systems work, and it's giving them real hands-on experience. Now, I want to say, here's how we got to where we are right now today. We wouldn't be here without VMA, and I'm going to specifically call out Jane Pfeiffer. She has just hit the street. She's done the hard work. She's recruited the 99% of the kids into the program. She is just a powerhouse. I love her. I hope you're watching live, Jane. We also had really good industry engagement. So this was started by folks from ABB, B. Braun, Sky, Dougherty Manufacturing. So some of the bigger manufacturers in the area have been founding members and have put in a lot of their time and effort. And again, we're recruiting. We've just recruited our third cohort. We just got our first female student. I'm very proud of that. And we're growing. This next cohort is definitely stepped up. We've all acknowledged that. But we're trying to go to the next level. So that's where I come in here. And just this is the second page in your packet. I'd like to invite you all out to learn a little bit more. And that's going to be next Thursday at the Daytona ATC. We've got press going to be there. We've got, I think it'll be a good event for local officials. I also think it'll be a good event for employers. And I'd really like to invite any employer who is or is not involved to come attend and learn a little bit more about what we're doing with the program. With all of that said, there's going to be a NASCAR driver there, and his name's Garrett Smithley. He's racing on Friday, and it was a really interesting connection that we got, because Garrett is probably the biggest promoter of the program. He's a Kentucky boy, and he had kind of heard about it, and then he realized that his cousin had actually been one of the early people to go through when Toyota brought it. And his cousin's gone on and still works for Toyota and has gone on to this illustrious career and traveled around the world and such. So Garrett's going to show up. The kids are going to be there. We're going to have them not present to you like this. We're going to have them present to you the way that they present there. And I think it'll be a nice educational event. So I'm probably taking too much time, but I really would like to ask for your support and help. I think the program's got legs. The first cohort was super tough to recruit because an unproven program. The second one a little bit easier. The third one a lot easier. And frankly, I need a little bit more help from the community. And so grateful to you all for having me here today. And Robin, I'm going to turn it over to you. And then I'm also, and I apologize, I'm going to have, it's going to be rude, I'm going to have to leave. I have to attend a funeral in DeLand at 10 o'clock this morning. So, yeah, thank you. But again, grateful to you all for having me here today, and enjoy the Q update.
Thank you so much, Kevin. So before we get to Robin, I'm going to briefly go over our second quarterly update. And really looking forward to Robin's presentation. So excuse my brevity as I go through some of these slides. All right, so this graphic shows the county employment inflow outflow. So if we're looking at the 168,000 people that are employed in Volusia County, or actually the 219 that are living in Volusia County, we're losing 108,000 to our neighboring counties. So they're going to Seminole County, Orange County, Brevard County. And this slide actually came from 2020 when we were well into the pandemic. So, there's a lot of things that you can assume. There were a variety of people in the workforce that were probably working remotely at that time. But when we get into the data and we look at, okay, who was actually leaving, wholesale and retail trade picked up that majority. So, of course, you can't do wholesale and retail trade remotely. So, administration and support, perhaps that could be the case as well, but 7,500 people going and leaving the county, working out to that net outflow of 50,964 people is pretty significant. So I've seen the unemployment number bounce around between 2.9% and 3.2% in June. The available labor force has never been higher. And so this graphic shows you we have completely recovered from the pandemic. There are tons of people that are working, which means that there's not a lot of available workforce for you all to choose from to fill some of your vacant positions. And so this is what I would call a blessing and a curse. Yes, definitely we want to see people in our community employed, but where are you going to find people to fill some of your most needed and valuable positions? And so in a variety of our different industries that we have throughout our economy here, this is an ongoing challenge. So in looking at major industry in RMSA, education and health services leads the way, and followed by leisure and hospitality. This has been an increase of 9.4% since before the pandemic. So we're looking at 2019 into where we are in 2023, and yes, the labor force is working, it's moving, and we are benefiting significantly in that regard. Once again, looking at the greatest increases, of course, transportation, warehouse, and utility up 49% if we're looking at percentage, but numbers to numbers, education and health services from 40,000 in 2019 to 46,000 in 2023. These numbers are doing phenomenal. Looking at residential new construction, about $350 million worth of permits that are out there for the development of communities in our area. And 958 permits is showing us that the housing market or the construction market for housing is doing great. Not so much with the new commercial construction building permits. Of course, relatively consistent with what we've done in the first quarter of this year. 58 permits, just over $112 million of value. But in breaking this down a little bit more, multifamily, you've noticed there's a good bit of apartment complexes going up all throughout the area. That seems to bring up the majority of our new commercial construction. Warehouse, our last Q presentation, Jim Ford spoke about the CareerSource development, the cold storage facility that's just west of the airport here on Williamson Boulevard. That's a $26 million construction project. And of course, leisure and hospitality kind of bringing up the rear there at $1.6 million. So, mentioned before, there's a good deal of unfilled jobs that are out there spread throughout the country. The states that are in red are actually faring the worst. They're anywhere between 70 and 100% of unfilled job openings. Us in Florida, we're about 60%. And because of the fact that we're looking at a 3% unemployment rate, there is some room for us to make up in terms of trying to get people into the right jobs. And then also, this is another trend projected through 2031. People that are 65 and older are remaining in the workforce. But on the flip side, we're having some difficulty, and if you look at the trends from 2001 through 2021 and what's projected out through 2031, we're having some difficulty getting people that are 16 to 24 into the workplace. So there are opportunities that are out there for us to engage that segment of the population. While we still have people that are 65 and over still working, there's a variety of things that are contributing to that as well. So when we were going through the pandemic, we were familiar with the Great Resignation. I don't think that's the case here. I think what our situation is now is people that are in the workforce are leaving their current jobs for other opportunities that may be more lucrative, that may provide additional benefits, may provide opportunities for those to work from home. And so the big challenge, and Robin's going to get into this in a little bit more detail, is how do we retain what we have? So with that, I want to bring up Robin King, who is the president and CEO of CareerSource Flagler, Volusia. Robin leads a workforce system consisting of 3 career centers across 2 county regions that serve 20,000 job seekers and businesses annually. She has over 35 years of experience in workforce development. Robin actively participates on boards for local economic development organizations, child welfare agencies, the United Way of Volusia and Flagler, and the Commission on Homelessness. She is committed to the development of prosperous workforce and business community and holds a strong belief in the value of teamwork between economic development, education, and businesses. So please join me in welcoming Robin King.
Thank you. Good morning. Okay, so if I have the lapel, it means I can break away. I told Heather, if you make me stand still, I get more nervous. So before I get into my presentation, I would like to introduce some people that I have here with me. So I have board and committee members. Raise your hand or stand up so that, oh, come on, I know I've got more than one. I mean, I've got Kent up here, I've got Courtney. Keith isn't here. Oh, I'm gonna have fun with Keith Norden later. I've got Ken. See, I'm nervous when I start missing people's names. So I also have some of my team here. I'm gonna ask my team to stand, just because they're in the middle. I'd like to say they're here for me, but they're here for the bacon. I know it. Actually, they're a fantastic team. We started getting letter grades. The state grades us now like they do school systems. And we started off with a B+ in last September. So, but the last 2 quarters, this team has been #1 in the state. And that wasn't by accident. So, I was invited really to come and talk about a new alliance that we're involved in. It is the Florida Atlantic Workforce Alliance. I refuse to say FAWA, so I'm going to refer to it as the Atlantic Alliance. And regionalism and regions are something that we talk about in economic development and workforce development and education. Businesses, they don't care about our boundaries, right? And so we have to work with counties. Traditionally speaking, Volusia County is part of East Central region, so that's in the Orlando area. Flagler is attached up to the Jacksonville. This one is a little bit different. This is down along the whole Space Coast. So there are 3 workforce boards. There's CareerSource Flagler Volusia, CareerSource Brevard, and CareerSource Research Coast, which is Indian River, Martin, and St. Lucie County. In that area, then we also have the 3 state colleges are part of this. So traditionally, this is the Space Coast. So, pop quiz. When was the first crew sent to the International Space Station, marking the beginning of an uninterrupted human presence on the orbiting laboratory? Anyone know that? How long have we been continuously in space?
1980.
So continuously. It's only been since 2000. We started sending people up, but they didn't stay on the space station continuously. So for almost 23 years, we have been in space continuously, which means anyone that's these Gen Zers, though I read they're called Zoomers. As a boomer, I kind of like that one. They don't know a world without that. They don't know JFK's bold challenge to get on the moon by 1970, right? And so the targeted industries that really come along with this alliance then is advanced manufacturing, which includes aerospace and aviation, and then information technology, specifically around cybersecurity. So the key initiatives, Career Showcase and Awareness Campaign. So we're working with Embry-Riddle. We'll be holding a showcase October 19th. Ashley's making sure I got it right. That's going to be for our school districts, Flagler, Volusia, Brevard, maybe some other surrounding ones, as well as adults. So we're doing it into the evening to really create awareness around the occupations that are accessible. I mean, you think of the Microplex is in the same zip code where we have the highest poverty level of our children. There's something disconnected there. So how do we help make better connections? Workforce attraction, one of the things that we're doing in collaboration with Volusia County Economic Development is work local, something that you will see more about come later this year, early next year. The initiative pays for education, so we do classroom training, work-based learning opportunities like on-the-job training, apprenticeship, employed worker training. This is where we rely so heavily on Daytona State College and Frank on everything that he does over there. And then wraparound support. So for those individuals that need childcare or transportation, the assistance they need to be able to go to school or keep the job. And also working with Embry-Riddle. Now, do I have anybody in here from Embry-Riddle by chance? Stephanie. So we'll never be able to afford the tuition at Embry-Riddle, but we can help pay for things like tools and the certifications for the airplane mechanics, because they are going to be FAA certified, and so those are the ways that we can kind of fill in some of the gaps. And of course, we don't do anything alone successfully, so these are our stakeholders, area businesses. Kevin had already talked about the FAME chapter, and the different entities within Embry-Riddle, our economic development, of course, chambers, and our schools. Where shall I point the clicker? I'm pushing the wrong button. So, pop quiz. How many people moved to Florida in 2021? Give me a rough estimate. 200,000? 400,000. More than 400,000, did I hear? So that's like Washington, D.C. moving in. Or Vermont. Or Wyoming. So this is the projected population, past and projected, of the 6 counties. So in the 6 counties, we're looking at, by 2027, to have a little over 2.1 million. About 27% of the region's population is 65 plus, compared to 22 at the state level and 17 at the U.S. population. So we are attracting a bit of an older group. Volusia County specifically, those that are 65 plus, is at 24%, which is 4% higher than it was 10 years ago. So I'm sure Margaritaville had something to do with that. Then here's a breakout of the U.S., Florida, and so you see these projections. We're a popular spot, right? And then here is of the 3, so Flagler, Volusia, Research Coast, which are those 3 counties to the south, and then Brevard. So our overall, we have almost 14% growth rate in the 10 years previous, and now we're looking at about 6% in the next 5. So, and of course, all projections with labor market information is based on history. So anything could really happen to change any of that. And then some of the demographic information. Age. So education levels, so again, the red is the 6 counties. So you see that, so high school diploma only, we are higher than everybody else. Some college, which are those certifications and certificates, kind of like the FAME program, the associate's degree. But when it comes to the bachelor's degree and higher, we're lower. And then that's the same if you look at Volusia County, so, or the 2-county area, we're only at 9%, where the others are over 10. But our high school diploma is 31, while the others are less than 30. Unemployment rate. So Cyrus had touched on this a little bit earlier. So why in times like today may an increasing unemployment rate be good news? Is Clayton in the room?
More available workers.
Yes. Where is he? I heard him. Well, I said about Clayton because he and I talk about this when it bumps up, it means more people have come into the workforce. So one of the unemployment rates that I pay close attention to is for individuals with disabilities. And I was ecstatic when I saw it go down below 10% for our county. That was about 2 years ago. And then I realized it's because they were leaving the workforce. So now they're starting to come back, and the unemployment rate's going up again. And that's a good thing. More people. So labor force participation rate is an issue. Participation rate for the 6 counties is 55% compared to the state rate of 59 and the U.S. of 63. When I say labor force participation rate, do you know what I mean? Okay, so the unemployment rate is calculated by two things. People that are working, and that's only if they worked 1 hour in 1 week of the survey, or if someone's looking for work. That's it. If someone is not doing either one of those, they are not in the labor force. So the labor force participation rate means that of the ages from 16 and older, the percentage that's either working or looking for work. So when we look at our 2-county area, that 54%, and actually for Volusia County, it's 54%, which means, because you saw the number earlier of how many people we have in our labor force, more than we've ever had before, but there's about 200,000 people out there that are not doing either in this county. Now some of them are high school students, okay. Some of them might be students at the other universities. Some of them are very happily retiring a little earlier than they used to. But it's also individuals with disabilities. It's individuals who have been justice involved. There are other pockets that have higher unemployment rates or would like to get back into the labor force. And so I'm going to, Councilman Matt Reinhardt and I are bound and determined that we're going to get something out of the jail so that when those individuals come out, they have a skill set and they can get back into the labor force. I just wrote that grant proposal, by the way, Matt. Okay. Excuse me. Location quotants. So location, LQs are what do we have a higher concentration of than other areas? Okay? So I'm always happy if I see an LQ that's over 2. So in our 6 counties, you see computer and electronic product manufacturing at 4. Means the concentration that we have in these 6 counties is higher than the state average or the national average. Actually, when I took a look, I couldn't find that higher anywhere else in the country. Then we have textile, transportation equipment manufacturing, amusement, gambling, other things. So which manufacturing sector employs the most in Volusia and uses 100% in-region purchases? So if I go back to this one and you see like transportation equipment. What's the legacy industry that we have here? So boat building employs over 2,000 people and spends $1.26 million to suppliers that employ another 2,000 in this county. Isn't that cool?
That's really cool.
So this is a broad overview then of all the advanced manufacturing in the 6 counties. So the location quote up here, the higher, and then its growth rate. So engineering services, you can see has really got a high growth rate. Research development. This is the one that's just going off the charts. So, and it's just starting. So it hasn't had maybe the historical piece, but semiconductor and related device manufacturing. So within the 6 counties, about 40,000 individuals are employed in advanced manufacturing. It's projected to grow faster in the Alliance region than what's projected at the state and national level. So we had a 24% growth in advanced manufacturing from 2011 to 2022, and it's expected to grow for another another 11% in the next 5 years. So what Kevin was referring to earlier, shout out to Jane and to Jessica at VMA. If you've not met the biggest cheerleaders this community has for manufacturing, I invite you to do so because they are helping create the awareness that's needed around this particular industry. It's needed because this one of the issues that our advanced manufacturing is facing is their workforce is older than many of the others. And so they need programs like FAME to help introduce. I've actually told Jane years ago, I said we should start calling our manufacturers makers, because kids know what makers are. They don't necessarily know what manufacturing is, or if they've got any older relatives who had done manufacturing, they might have a very misaligned idea of what that is. Brad's over there smiling at me because he's the one who taught me well what manufacturing really is. All right, so then aerospace. Aerospace employs a little over 13,000 in the 6 counties. Past growth rate is at 18% with 11% in the next 5 years. So where advanced manufacturing pays at an average of 97,000, in this batch, 181 businesses pay 133,000. That's the average. So a lot of engineers in this group. So guided missile and space vehicle. Now, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that wouldn't have been a thing. Commercial space has changed this Space Coast region. So the age group here is a little bit younger, but it's still, when you see that 55 to 64, great group to be in, that will be the issue in another 10 years or so. Cybersecurity jobs. Cybersecurity has a little over 17,000 jobs now, projected growth rate of 10%. Past growth was 21%. Annual job openings, 1,699 annually. So I am always grateful for Daytona State College and its response to what our businesses need, because they are in the process of building a whole new cybersecurity complex, whatnot. When's that projected to be ready, Frank? I just, when you think of how technology continues to change, something like that is not something you just go in, you learn once, and then you're done. It's something that continuing education will always be needed. So here, where the location quotient isn't as high, the growth has really been tremendous. And you can see then that it is attracting a much younger workforce. So all of this data, and trust me, there are pages and pages and pages that I just touched on a few highlights. It was done by Lightcast. Lightcast, previously known as Burning Glass and EMSI. They're the ones who did this study, and we have a lot more local data as well. But in the study, there were recommendations. So attracting and engaging talent, specifically women and Black, Indigenous, people of color, that these sectors are not as diverse as they need to be. And so how do we work on that? Strengthening our connections with businesses, re-examining educational requirements. What that means in the re-examining requirements, have you ever posted a job and said you wanted a bachelor's degree, but you hired someone who had an associate's degree or work experience or something else? So as soon as you say, I require this, but you end up hiring something else, you have put up your own obstacle to say who can apply or not. Somebody who's gutsy enough to apply, you go, oh, and you hire that person. Well, but there's other people out there who follow the rules and they're not going to apply unless they have those. So that's what that's about. Making sure that our training is aligned with demand. So here again is where Volusia County Schools and Daytona State have been so engaged in wanting to know from businesses directly, what do you need? You know, you don't need flower arranging, you need welders. Whatever that might be. And so that's why they're always asking for either people to participate on an advisory board or to do the surveys, so that the certifications they're offering in high school, middle school, post-secondary is exactly what you need. So the FAME project that was referred to earlier is such a collaboration, again, with businesses and Daytona State. I believe we found out about that program because of Daytona State. Am I right, Cheryl? Yep. Because it was still owned by by Toyota at the time. So those are the kinds of things that our educational providers are always out there looking for, is finding those kinds of solutions. So your call to action. We have created 3 industry councils: advanced manufacturing, aerospace and aviation, and cybersecurity. So these are going to be councils among the 6 counties. Ashley, who's here, this is her phone number and her email address. If I was, my team is great. When I do my own PowerPoints, I forget things like QR codes. So yes, take a picture, or you can get on our website and send us an email. But Ashley is our project coordinator for this project and would be most happy to hear from any of you to participate on any of these. And while those are the 3 industries that we're looking at, I mean, we definitely want education there, we want economic development. Anybody who's really concerned about workforce attraction and retention, and how do we make this community look the best, so that I sent an email to the Ormond Main Street Association a couple days ago, because I had heard Becky talking that at the Celtic Festival that they had a map up, and they asked people to put a pin in whatever state that they were visiting from. And almost every single state was pinned. So how do we turn those kinds of events into, so you came here to play, have you ever thought about living here? Right? So how do we start doing some out of the traditional ways of attraction? Before I concluded, I wanted to just kind of touch on the fact that CareerSource Flagler Volusia in a year will not be here. We will be a new entity because we're merging with CareerSource Brevard. And so one of the things I've learned is Brevard is the longest county in the state. Oh my gosh. It takes me 2 hours to drive on the interstate from north to south. But it is a very rare opportunity that we have to create a board from scratch. Most of us, when we come into this, you inherit whatever. But this is an opportunity for us to really engage our business community to find out what you would like to see in your new local workforce board. Have input on strategic imperatives. What is it that you want the board to focus on? What do you want them to invest in? Do you need a change in service delivery? Whatever that might be. So we will have roundtables probably starting after January of 24 to really kind of see what it is that our business community wants. And we'll do roundtables with our clients or our job seekers as well to get their input. Because this really, as I said, it's a rare opportunity, and I really want to do it right. So we will need input for that. So that concludes my comments. We have time for questions. I tried not to go too fast or too slow.
You did fantastic. So before we let Robin go, there are some question cards on the table, and Katrina in the back, she will grab the question cards from you. I know, Bob, you're jumping at the bit. I see you. Is there Katrina? Make sure we get the question cards to Katrina, and then we'll have those questions read out to Robin.
Let me ask the question. There's many questions asked. How many people in Volusia County can't read past the 4th grade level? Does anybody know that figure?
25%.
As a board member of yours for 20 years and a board member of Volusia Literacy Council for 35 years, 35 years ago when I joined Volusia Literacy Council, 1 in every 4 people in Volusia County cannot read past the 4th grade level. And today I stand here before you, 1 in every 4 people in Volusia County cannot read past a 4th grade level. That's 125,000 people, no figures up there show that, of great carpenters, great plumbers, great auto mechanics, great air conditioning, and we do nothing to bring them into the workforce. What is our plans for that? These are great people. That's 25% of Volusia County of our populace of 585 that can't read, and it's not the school system, it's just a failure of them being able to adjust to the schools. I think this crowd needs to know we've got 125,000 people that are great workers that are unemployed.
All right, any other questions from the audience?
Is the comparison for people who have work experience versus a degree? Are companies going towards work experience versus degree?
It depends on the occupation. There are some things that you can do that with. I know that we were hiring in our IT department, and that's really hard to do just with classroom experience. It's one of the reasons why we are encouraging more work-based learning opportunities at while they're in post-secondary education or even in the high schools, so that they have some of that. Then there are others. It's really depending upon the occupation and the industry. Yes, sir.
How many homeless do we have here in Daytona Beach and Volusia County? And is there something to help reintegrate them or educate them so they can get jobs?
Yes, I don't have the exact number. I'm going to say that because it's defined differently by different organizations, like the school board defines it very differently for the kids and HUD does. So we're actually working on a pilot project right now with the Commission on Homelessness to do interviews both of residential areas as well as those that are on the street to find out how we can make our services more accessible. Generally speaking, if somebody is living on the street, they're in constant flight or fight mode. Absolutely. Which is not an easy way to look for a job, that kind of thing. So we've worked with the different providers. I serve on the Commission for Homelessness, so I'm always looking to see how we get our services out there. And because many of them, it was, you think of the storms that we've just had. How many people are homeless just because the hurricanes hit? And then they weren't able to work for a few weeks, and then that just starts to tumble, right? And so getting anyone the skill sets that can be in turn used for prosperity, and that's really around this awareness campaign that we're doing, that there are so many jobs. You know, if I ask people what that bubble building is on Clyde Morris, the majority who live in 32114 do not know. They don't know what's behind those windows. So how do we show that there are pathways and those kinds of jobs are accessible, regardless of their zip code or their past history? Working very closely with the adult education program at Daytona State College, which is layered manufacturing on top of their adult education now, so that they're not just working on a GED, they're working on a GED as they're learning language for the next potential career they might have.
One here, it says, are the programs for helping businesses still active, and can you share info about it? And I asked Tricia what programs, and she was talking about the skills training programs and the grants.
So the two primary things that we have program-wise for businesses is on-the-job training, where we reimburse up to half the wage for a set amount of time, depending on the skill set that that person is gaining. And the other is my favorite, and we call it customized training. It's employed worker training. Especially today when businesses cannot find new people to bring in, how can we help you uplift the skill set of the business, of the employees you already have? There is nothing you can do to gain loyalty, to retain your workforce as much as developing your workforce. And that doesn't always have to be about learning a new software or piece of equipment. It could be leadership skills. It could be sending people to the leadership programs at Daytona State, at Daytona Regional Chamber. You know, what are you doing to invest in your only non-depreciating asset, your staff? Well, those are the two that we have. Yes, we still have those, and don't see any reason they would ever go away.
50% of our people make less than $50,000 per year. Make a lot less. What are we doing about the pay scale?
That's a really good question. Next. It is going up. In fact, at the end of September, the minimum wage is going to go up to 13, right? That's just what the market's going to drive. And as we have more that are paying more, then others will pay more. But again, that's every individual business, that's your secret sauce that you need to figure out. We're happy to sit with you and talk about those things, but sometimes wage is not the only thing that really drives someone.
Thanks, Robin, for your presentation. Over the summer, the Youth Employment Training Program, YETI, that I'm proud to chair, employed a number of youth.
289 of them.
289. So how do we ensure that that program remains funded? Because I know there's always challenges and concerns. And how can the business community support and really, I guess, become more aware of the program? Because I think it has done such a great job. And again, it's seeding, the future.
How much time do I have?
Also an opportunity to connect them to fame.
Oh, that's a good thing about that connection, right? So YETI is a Youth Employment and Talent Initiative that we did for 3 years. It is not in this year's budget, as Barb knows, which is heartbreaking because I'm a product of what was called CETA back in the 70s. It was a summer youth program. I was a tour guide in a lead mine for 3 years. It was a good program. It was an important program. I wouldn't be standing here in front of you if I had not had that program. It taught me those professional skills that Kevin was talking about earlier. Actually, because it was a lead mine, I was the only girl that worked there, and they were all engineering students at the local university. And this was really before sexual harassment laws were in place, or, I learned how to take a dirty joke without blushing. That was one of the skill sets I learned. Those are the things you learn on the job, though, right? And that's what's so important. And so we've had this opportunity. We started off with about 90 kids our first year, and we grew it up to almost 300 this year. And we had businesses participating. 66% of the funds that we spent were actually earned directly by the kids, so that they were able then in turn to buy their school supplies and the clothes and the things that they were going to need. Quite a number of them kept the jobs that they had been working in. And I'm not talking fast food kinds of things. I'm talking about acupuncturist offices and in our healthcare systems. There were some opportunities for the kids to learn. I'm not supposed to call them kids, the young adults to learn. I really want to do this. And then they participate in something over the summer and go, oh, I guess I really don't want to do that for a living. Which is just as powerful as to learn that I really, really like this. Now I need the education to go with it. So how we can do that, I know that there were some companies that invested in the different programs throughout, because we worked with 9 different providers that do youth mentoring in our county, and how we can grow that. The merger also would have something to do with that as well, that the next year it's coming back. That's my infinite game. It's going to come back. But we know that we're not going to be able to carry over. So it's logistic stuff. So there will be some bumps. But we will get those kids back in there because it's just too important. And as I'm looking at Mr. Dye over here, who pointed himself when he said about the CETA, he's got some influence with some circles. So maybe we could talk to Randy. Representative.
Good morning, Robin.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. This is a great discussion. I was proud in the last session in Tallahassee to sponsor the bill, thank you, on post-secondary education being substituted for work experience. So in other words, if you do not have a college degree, but you have the work experience, you can now apply for certain jobs. And you can, in fact, be advanced, get advancement in your place of employment simply because of this bill. And I was also proud to have also brought appropriations for the New Horizon prison program that we have here at Tomoka Prisons, where I visited and worked with them. So when the prisoners are getting out, we have making sure they have the work experience to come into the workplace. I want to encourage my friend Barbara Gertman to get with my staff and myself. We're more than happy to work with you in terms of appropriations. I'm extremely proud to have brought $20.5 million back to Volusia County in this past session. And yes, we can make a difference in this room. The suggestions that you'll bring in is for business people to recognize that you can scale up. You understand what I'm saying? You can scale up so your business can grow. And when you scale up, you're helping the entire county and the entire region. You are so fabulous of a resource, Robin King. I'm so proud to work with you, and it's a great honor to be here at this very important event this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. One more thing. Where are we on time?
We're past it.
We're past it?
But
Okay. I'm just going to do a quick plug.
Yep.
Because the representative reminded me something, and if Trish knew that I had not spoken specifically about apprenticeships, she would shoot me. So when somebody asked about the difference between education and work experience, a hybrid approach you can take is apprenticeships. Now, apprenticeships where I come from in Wisconsin was an 8,000-hour, very 5-year set. Apprenticeships today are customizable depending upon what you want. Now, the FAME project is apprenticeship-like, it's just not registered. But there are a lot of different opportunities on how you can bring someone in and teach them. Halifax Hospital has apprenticeship programs now. And Serena Fisher said something at one of our functions that just stayed with me, that apprenticeship allows you to hire based on culture and their soft skills. The apprenticeship will teach them the hard skills. So that's a solution that we would love to also talk to you about anytime. Thank you again this morning.
Thank you so much, Robin. Very informative, and we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to share the information with us. Want to give one more thanks to Dr. Sharples and the CEO Business Alliance. Thank you so much for making this wonderful breakfast available for us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. One more note. The next Q is going to be November the 17th. Our speaker will be economist Dr. Jerry Parrish, who I am sure will have some great information to share with you all. So we look forward to seeing you then. Have a great weekend.